Jupiter is the planet of growth and abundance and joy and expansion, right? And Pisces is the least boundaried sign of the zodiac. So it is a deeply spiritual sign. You float between worlds with Pisces, and your eighth house is all about psychology, shared resources, sex. You know what I mean? So I have this planet of abundance and expansion. Let's just highlight expansion in this house that's about psychology and sex and shared resources, that's ruled by a sign that literally floats between worlds.
Welcome to Holy Shift, the podcast where medicine meets mystery and healing becomes whole.
We're your hosts, Taylor Sappington
and Adrian Arizari.
Two clinicians, herbalists, and mystics who believe the old ways and modern medicine were never meant to live apart.
This is a space for the witches in the broom closet, the healers afraid to leave their mark, the world walkers who know they don't fit into the systems they were handed.
Here we go first, sharing our stories, our medicine, and the truth about what it really takes to reclaim your power, your health, and your place in the world.
Because the safest, most radical thing you can be is yourself.
This is your permission.
This is your portal.
This is your holy shift. We are back. Episode 2, Holy Shift. Guys, it's more like holy shit right now.
Yes.
To me. This podcast is being recorded. Let me talk to you about our impeccable timing, guys. Adrian and I decided that it would be a fantastic idea. Our schedules thought it would be a fantastic idea that we record this podcast on the very day that Mars and Pluto conjunct one another. We're going to talk about the history of astrology. Why is that relevant to you? Adrian and I started off our conversation before I hit record talking about what's going on in our household. We've talked about what? Fatigue, shitty sleep. What else is going on?
Explosive behavior.
That too.
Feeling unsettled in the body.
Anything else?
I mean, like, if anybody were to doubt that, because like there's a lot of haters out there that are like, oh, astrology it's bunk, it's not based in science.
Sure.
I've heard all of the bullshit, but the thing is like my 11-month-old child doesn't know anything about astrology. He doesn't know anything about like any of this, but that child, right when we came through this solar eclipse, because it hits his chart in his natal chart in some really big places, he started waking up every 2 hours. The kid isn't cutting teeth. He is almost 12 months old. Like, there's all of this stuff, like where he really should be sleeping fine. And he was sleeping like a 7-8 hour stretch before he would wake up at 5:36 and ask to nurse. No, we hit this solar eclipse. It was like the day before the eclipse. He woke up every 2 hours. And I was like, what fresh hell is this?
Yeah.
And then the day of the eclipse, it was like every hour and a half to 2 hours the entire night, all during the day. He wouldn't nap. He cried. He still is a barnacle baby. He will not let go of my person. The grace of a nap is the only reason I can get this recording in right now, because from the moment he woke up this morning, because aspects in today's chart
Astrology
also are hitting his natal chart, and all he wants is to hold on to mom and for mom to carry him everywhere, because he can tell he doesn't feel settled in his system. Anybody who doubts that this is a real legit thing, like, just come live in my household for a few hours.
Or just tune out the bullshit. Here's the thing. There's a narrative that's been fed to us about astrology for so many years because elites use it. I talked about this the other day, but it's like rules for thee, but not for me. Tools for me, but not for thee. You know what I mean? Like, literally, millionaires. There's this saying, millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires do, with a B. And there's a reason behind it, because if you choose to follow your unique chart setup and you understand the transits, which are activators, they're catalyzers, and they're going to impact everyone different. So if you're listening to Adrian and I after this recording, and we're already past the Mars and Pluto conjunction, and you're like, Well, on September 24th, I felt great. Well, that's because your chart probably didn't have high mutability and it wasn't being highly impacted by these aspects. That happens. There was a transit that happened earlier in the year where it really hit you. I remember we were talking about it and I was like, oh, this is not hitting me the same way. And that's
Mhm.
because the aspects on the chart are so different. So when we say you have a unique blueprint, we're not bullshitting you. You have a unique blueprint, not like unique in the sense that they like to sell it to you in the wellness industry, where it's like, come do these standard tests and we'll give you a unique protocol, but like 500,000 other people across the world are on that same unique protocol. Like,
Yep.
this is literally down to the detail of like, that herb is a good idea for you, but that herb is probably not ideal. And the same goes for like rituals and food and environment. So, the narrative that you've been fed about and around astrology, it's coming from people who don't want you to understand how to use it, because if you understood how to tune out the bullshit and tune
Mm.
into your own system and its feedback, you would be unstoppable. Can you imagine if just like 5% of the population did that?
Yeah. It would create a huge shift
Money systems
in
would change in like overnight. Business
holy
structures would
shift.
change. Yeah, holy shift is right. Like, this is what it's all about, right? Like, business structures would change,
Mm.
medical structures would change, education structures would change. And guess what? The godforsaken, god awful government that we call our own would fucking it's grumbling now, but it would fucking grumble a lot quicker than it is, because
Mhm.
people would be a lot less willing to accept mediocre. I can't even
Yes.
call what we're experiencing mediocre because it's so far beneath that at this point, but I digress. Okay, so Mars conjunct Pluto, here we go. Death, truth, transformation, honesty. It's where your shadow meets your drive. Like, this is
Mhm.
all about, Pluto's your shadow. It's your subconscious. It's the thing that lurks behind the door, beneath the veil. And Mars is like your let's fucking go energy. Like, pick it up. Let's go. Let's get shit done.
Yeah.
Right. And those two together, they're combustible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like quickly combustible, like match to paper kind of quick. And again, I keep bringing it back to my son, right? Like in his natal chart, he is a Libra, but he has a Scorpio moon. So, like, he's quick to erupt today. He goes from 0 to full on freak out in 2 seconds flat. And I was thinking about what you were saying about how different aspects hit different charts differently. I think during the lunar eclipse that happened recently, you were like, stop the bus. I want to get off
Oh my God, I
because
was
of
getting my
your
ass
chart.
kicked.
And for me, I was like, I'm clear for the first time in a long time. I'm getting downloads. This is so great because I felt so uninspired for such a long time. And you were like, that's great for you. I don't like you. Like, all of a sudden, because you were like, where did the bus go? Shit.
I stood in front of the bus, guys. I got off the bus and I stood in front of it and I screamed for it to run me over. Like, it was just one of those, like, I'm done. I don't
Yeah.
need to ride anymore. You can just run me over and we can call this fresh hell, as you said earlier. It quits because I have a mutable cross in my chart that's heavily, there are a lot of planetary placements, right? Like, I have fucking Jupiter and Pisces. Guys,
That's
Jupiter is
great.
the planet of
Explain for people.
Jupiter is the planet of growth and abundance and joy and expansion, right? And Pisces is the least boundaried sign of the zodiac. So it is a deeply spiritual sign. It You float between worlds with Pisces, and your eighth house is all about psychology, shared resources, sex. You know what I mean? So I have this planet of abundance and expansion. Let's just highlight expansion in this house that's about psychology and sex and shared resources, that's ruled by a sign that literally floats between worlds with no boundaries. Like, a lot of Piscean placements have a really hard time also lifting up the rose colored glasses to see reality for what it is. There's lack of boundaries around giving as well as difficulty in receiving, right? And a lot of Piscean placements, if you're not careful and you've got strong Pisces, sun, moon, rising, multiple planets in that particular house where, say, Pisces rules, you are prone to addiction, food, shopping, drugs, alcohol. Escapism is very real. So to make a conscious choice to root myself in the energy that was that lunar eclipse, fuck me, like,
Yeah.
it was like run me over, you know? And it's very apparent collectively when we look at people and you understand life through the lens of astrology, who is living the higher octave or expression of their chart
Yes.
and who is still operating in the lower octave. And that is available for any of us, either side of that coin. So, why don't we talk about the history of astrology today? Because
Mhm.
there's going to be a lot of conversation around astrology in the episodes to come. Astrology and herbalism, astrology and acutonics, astrology and frequency. It's really a quantum language. I want to start to build this concrete idea around astrology because it is a language that you can learn how to speak. And when you understand how it was used historically, you can
Mhm.
see how practical it is to utilize, especially when there is so much deception today.
Yeah. In a world of fake news.
Literally. I mean, and I don't say this to be controversial, and this is about as far as I'm going to go with this comment. But if we look at the recent events that have occurred in the month of September on a national, I'm not even going to say global scale, national scale here in the United States, right? And we look at the days and the times, numerology and astrology, it becomes really difficult to unsee what you see
Mhm.
because you understand that there is absolutely a numerological sequencing tie to energetic portals that exist based on transits that were occurring. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Would
Well,
you
and
add
you can
anything?
I mean, you can see that all through history though. If
It's
you
repeating itself.
I mean, it always does.
Yeah.
And some of these aspects that we see, we might not see them for 30 years. We might not see them for 100 years. Like
Or
right
even
now,
50.
right? Like if you look at the natal chart of the United States right now, like
It's
it's
why it feels like
dicey.
shit.
Yeah, that's why everything feels gross right now because we have some really hard aspects that are showing up right now and it's making it very difficult to communicate to maybe I should look at this or word this in a little bit different way. It is hard, it feels hard, but it's also an invitation for us to really look at where we're having difficulty communicating, difficulty with systems and processes, difficulty with looking at things that used to work. Maybe the processes and procedures around certain things haven't evolved as the structure and everything else has evolved. And so now it's like, no, sorry, you cannot ignore this shit any longer. The way this thing was worded from 200 years ago isn't relevant today because there are a majority of people who can read now when this thing was written back at a time where not everyone could read and only the elite
The
could make
literacy was
decisions.
high.
And this is going to segue really nicely into what we were talking about. It's just like the church. There was a period of time where the church was the authority because they were the educated. And the masses, the scariest thing is a critically thinking, educated public. And again, I absolutely throw gas on that statement right now with shit that's happening here in the United States and providing examples.
Yeah.
However, the whole point is not to make this a polarizing political conversation, but to actually look at the fact that history, where we're at this moment in time, we are being extended an invitation to fucking do better.
And for all
And
of
what are
you
we going to do
millennials,
about it?
please lean in. Like Gen Z, boomers, like what is it, Gen X? You can lean back for a minute if you're like digging into this conversation, right? For all of you millennials, please lean in, lean closer, and turn up the volume a little bit. You came into this lifetime with Pluto, okay?
Mm,
Death, transformation, looking at shadows, exploring trauma in Scorpio.
yep.
Death, transformation, alchemization, looking at trauma, seeing the deeper meaning behind things. Okay. You agreed to this. I agreed to it. You agreed to it, right? Like we agreed to be here. We have been doing it our entire lives. I understand you're fucking tired, right? But the world needs you now more than ever. They need your ability to see things in the unique way that you were given the opportunity to see things through that unique lens. We so need you. We don't need you to tap out. I know you're tired. We don't need you to turn away. I know you're burnt out. We need you.
Mhm.
Because that's not to give, I'm a millennial, right? So I might be a little biased, right? But not to like pump us up, but that's our gift.
Mhm.
The Capricorn, like the Pluto and Capricorn, that's our boss babies coming up. Like the tweens and the teens right now, holy shit, like that energy I get, like walking into Sephora at 11, I can't even imagine. But that's them. It's so them. Like you can see it. That energy is only available to be embodied because we choose to do our work. So I get that we feel like we're the meat in the middle of the sandwich between what feels like two very fucked up generations. I say that respectfully, right? Like we have the boomers. I'm going to leave that there because I have a lot to say about that. Thanks for cleaning nothing up, guys. Okay. And then we've got, what is it, Gen X that comes right after us, right?
Yeah.
Like Gen
Or
X.
Gen X is before us.
Okay. So Gen X, latchkey, you kind of get the feel for what us millennials went through. Like we're really in the heat of it. And then Gen Z, Gen Z is right after us, right? Like get your shit together. I don't know how else to say it. Come on. We didn't work this hard to make it easy. We
Yeah.
worked this hard to clear a path for you. Let's go. Use the path.
So I think this is a really good opportunity for people who are like, who understand some, but maybe not at a really high level. Our outer planets,
Yes.
think about their distance. Okay. So they are a really long way from the sun.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at charts and placements, the outer planets
Moves
tend to
slow.
affect, they move very slow, but they tend to affect an entire generation,
Yes.
which is what Taylor's talking about for anybody who's like, I don't understand how Pluto is affecting me. So you're going to find that within a certain age bracket, that in everybody's chart in a certain age bracket, that planet is going to be in a certain place.
Mhm.
And it'll move a few degrees, but it's
Mhm.
going to be in a certain place. So for people who, and I'm right on the cusp
Yeah.
of Gen
The
X and
Scorpio. Yeah.
millennials, I am right on the cusp. So
Are
I
you at an
was a latch.
analytic degree? We will end up teaching you this, but are you at a critical degree with your Pluto? Like, are you at like a 28, 29 Scorpio?
Oh, that's a great question. I can't remember off the top of my head,
Okay.
but I can look that up for you while we talk. But I am right on the cusp. So I do remember and I do experience. And for anybody who falls into that like Zennial, they're
Mhm.
starting to create a category in between because we're defined by the market crash in 2008. I talk about when my experience in college, I waited in line for books at the bookstore and I had to call on the phone in order. And if that phone queue was overloaded, man, that would make for a really long night trying to
Yeah.
register for classes. But other people 2 years behind me, everything was online.
Yep.
Some of it is like what's happening in terms of transitions in your lived experience. So I actually don't know if I can find that answer for you fast enough.
Adrian and I will do an entire call on degrees. The motivation, the inspiration for this call was recent events and critical degrees. We should probably give some background to astrology before we jump into that because degrees, depending on who's listening, can be very controversial. But we
Mhm.
do have, just like plant this little seed in your beautiful brain garden. We do have fated degrees in our astrology chart. And fated, it's not negative when I say that. It doesn't carry a negative connotation. And I also think as humans, we're really good at dissociating from the fact that when it's our time, it's our time, you know?
My Pluto's at 2 degrees.
Okay. So it's at a whole new chapter for you, like 0 to
Yes.
2.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So degrees do have heavy weight in the chart, but there's a lot of things that really need to be understood. And I think for any of you listening that question astrology, I want to put a lot of that to bed in this
Mhm.
episode, right? So astrology is old. We are
Yeah.
talking thousands of years old, like long before it had ever been reduced to horoscopes in magazines, which really chaps my ass, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? Like you are not just the summation of your sun sign,
Yeah.
nor are you the summation of your sun and moon, nor are you the summation of your sun, moon, and rising. Like those three together give you a much bigger picture. But at the same time, it's still a very limited perspective on the scope of your natal chart. We're talking about an entire blueprint for a human's lived experience from first breath to last breath. So to reduce it to a fucking horoscope, pardon my French, All of you IG astrologers, get the fuck out of here, right? So the earliest it's how they clickbait you guys. I'm telling you, like, it's baity content. So the earliest record of astrology dates back to Mesopotamia
Mhm.
around 2000 BCE, okay, where the Babylonians began the Babylonians, think about the sophistication that had to go with this. We talk about how advanced we are. Think about civilizations that had no technology. So the
Mhm.
Babylonians started tracking planetary movements to predict seasonal changes and kingly faith. It was a royal art to understand astrology. Okay. And back then, astrology was astronomy. We have
Mhm.
entire doctoral programs in the United States today built around astronomy. So it
Mhm.
was not separated from the study of the stars,
And I
right?
think it's important to really lean into because there's so much science there. And there was a very sophisticated understanding. Like, we're talking about Mesopotamia, we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about Aztecs, the Greeks, we're talking about ancient civilizations built their existence. And we'll talk about the frequency, the medicine side of this later, but they built treatments for people, they composed music. If you knew planetary movement and the stars and the relationships there, you were a very coveted person. And often you ended up being a long-time resident
Mhm,
in a patron's household
mhm.
because your skills were how they planned work, planting fields, decision making. And there were so many things like, is this a healthy time to do a surgery?
Which can still be used today.
It can.
Right? It's called elective astrology, and you can utilize it, or horary astrology, and you can utilize it, and decumbiture. You can utilize all three of them to discern and determine whether or not the surgery is appropriate, the procedure is appropriate, and your practitioner is appropriate. You bet your sweet ass that before I agree to work with anyone, I'm looking at their birth chart, because there are certain placements, like if your Saturn placement is in one of my predominant placements, like my sun, my moon, my rising. Like, if your Saturn resides in Gemini, we ain't gonna, I might as well redirect you. Like,
Mhm.
it's not going to be a good match. So, this is really science and spirituality and survival in the context of the eras that we're speaking to, all braided together. Adrian mentioned Egyptians, right? Egyptians layered it with solar worships,
Yes.
okay, and birth charts based on deacons. Greeks, especially during the Hellenistic period around the 2nd century BCE, systematized it. That's where we got the 12 zodiac signs,
Mhm.
right? The ascendant and the planetary rulership. That was the Greek system. Astrology was Greek humoral medicine. It was the constitutional system they put in play to essentially treat their civilians, right? Like,
Mhm.
I just think it's so fascinating when we start talking about the technicality of it. I'm going to say this word awfully, Adrian, maybe you can correct it. Polygamy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
PTO, Ptolemy, and the,
Mhm. Ptolemy.
yeah.
The
Okay.
P
So,
silent.
and the, what is it? Oh my God, tetrabolos. Like, there's something that goes along with it. I understand the context. I just can't say the words, right? That was all part of the Greek philosophy of astrology. You've
Yes.
got India, which you know Vedic far better than I do, but India developed its own incredibly rich system.
Mhm.
How do you say it? Joitus?
Mhm.
Okay. Or Vedic astrology, right? That's what they developed, rooted deeply in karma, reincarnation,
Mhm.
dharma. And I'd say that's more predictive than a lot of the systems we see with Placidus or Western astrology. China, right? Like,
Mhm.
China has astrology that they merged with numerology. Okay.
Mhm.
Lunar cycles. yin yang philosophy into different but equally powerful systems. And then Islamic scholars, guys, have we built this list up for you? This scroll is starting to get a little long here. We've got Islamic scholars during the Golden Age, the 8th to the 13th century, preserved, translated, and built on Greek texts.
It's amazing. Like, if you look at it through time, you've got huge names like Pythagoras, Kepler, and Flood. And then as you get a little bit more Renaissance and forward, you have scholars like St. Augustine, who tried to marry this understanding of astrology with Christianity values, because all of a sudden, the rise of Christianity
Let me
and
sip my tea.
the doctrine of the church started going, yeah, that's demonic, because they wanted control over the narrative. So you had people like St. Augustine, like Kirchner, who was a Jesuit scholar, who tried between, I would say, early 1400s to late 1600s, like 1680, roughly. When you had people working in this field, they were trying to create a synergy in
Which is
order.
lacking in our world today. I just want to illuminate the fact that synergy does not exist in the medicine that most of you participate in. It has been completely removed, which is why the frequency that you're looking to embody never lands fully and you don't
Mhm.
get better. Okay, I'm done pulling my soapbox off.
Well, no, like, I stand on this soapbox too, because it's just like everything else during that phase of history. If you really look at the history, this is when women moved from, and we can talk about the witch wound, but like, this is when women moved from being able to have their own incomes
And
independent of their
land.
husbands and land, and earn their own keep, to being so much a piece of property, literally, of their husbands, that they weren't allowed to hold on to and maintain any of their own assets anymore. And that happened. Christianity started stepping in even more and started taking away essentially the decision making and autonomy that astrology afforded people. There was a move from like more pagan culture into the rise of Christianity. And as this shift was taking place, the old systems were being, I think of this kind of like baking a cake, and you're folding the ingredients into this new experience of these independent things. That's essentially what was happening. Is, you had people like St. Augustine and Kirchner, and who were like, okay, well, I'm a quote unquote representative of this new system. However, I still hold beliefs of what I was raised with. So let me try to create a marriage here so that I'm not ostracized by the new system, but I can justify my understanding and my beliefs in the old system. Does that land with anybody? Kind of sounds like shit we're dealing with today,
I
right?
was just gonna say,
So
we haven't really outgrown it.
we haven't, but that is a historical thread,
Mhm.
right? All the way through. And during the time frame that I'm referring to right now with, Flood and the Divine Monochord, and and I'm talking about it from like a musical perspective because that's my background. But as we look at the evolution that takes place during this time frame, and we step away from astrology being the anchor point to connect humanity to the divine, to based in science to make decisions and all of these things, there were mathematical equations that were put into place that literally forecasted where the hell all these celestial bodies were going to be.
Islamic scholars did that based like they built off of the Greek system and they detailed mathematical calculations.
And they were validated in the
Absolutely.
90s by telescopes, because all of a sudden we had enough technology to validate what had already mathematically been proven for thousands of years.
Yep. Yeah. Like astrology is not a passing trend. It was historically woven into governance, it was
Mhm.
woven into medicine, it was woven into agriculture and ritual of life for millennia. I think we have a lot of audacity to stand up today and be like, That's fate. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. And you're telling me this through a black box while you
Mhm.
type it on a screen where I can't see you or participate in a conversation? Like nothing gets faker than what exists on here. And you're telling me a validated historical tool is fake? Get the fuck out of here. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, I think for me, okay, this is my Aquarius brain talking, right? Is that these things that have been understood for centuries, the fact that it has been proven by technology in today's world that these mathematical understandings have validity should be enough for any of the doubting Thomases out there. Oh, I made a
And I'm
Christianity reference.
Thank you for that. Right? Because there were literally periods, entire periods of history where astrology wasn't just accepted, it
Mhm.
was essential, right? Again, Adrian made mention of this
This
earlier,
is
but
weird.
in ancient Rome, emperors had court astrologers, right? The
Mhm.
same was true in Islamic empires where astrology and astronomy, remember, they were classified together at one point. So
Mhm.
those of us today, I'm just going to toot our horn here, beep, beep, right? Those of us today who understand astrology could probably hold conversation with an astronomer just fine.
Mhm.
Like, I cannot emphasize enough just how scientific and scientifically validated the
Mhm.
art, because remember, true science is impaired art, right? The art of astrology actually is.
Absolutely. And I think that's something else, and I don't know if you want to do it as a separate episode or not, that I think it would be really cool for people who are kind of new in this whole idea to like walk through the archetypes. Because when we
Yes.
talk about
Of each
Pluto and
house.
we talk about Mars and we talk about, and this is something that I do a lot with acutonics because I use forks that are literally the music of the spheres.
Mhm.
The frequency that I hold in my hand is calculated based off of this Pythagorean theorem that was, and then it was brought into a hearable range. And
This is
so,
quantum. What
yeah.
Adrian's talking about is quantum physics. It's known as scalar wave. It can be quantified in physics.
Mhm. So there's so much people look at this stuff and they go, "Oh, this is woo." I think this is also why, and Adrian's going to stand on a soapbox about crystal bowls for a second. And I know this is going to chap some people's butts, but this is why when I talk about myself as a sound healing practitioner, I take a little bit of issue with others who call themselves sound healers that use crystal bowls and gongs. Those things are relevant. They create frequency in the body, but they don't function the
Correct.
way that what I do does.
Because what you do is scalar wave. Those things are not necessarily in the same, if we want to get technical, scientific classification. It's all based on
Mhm.
frequency.
And I mean, there is absolutely a time and a place for
Yep.
crystal bowls and gongs. Like those things help with working with the body's sympathetic and parasympathetic responses, being able to take you out of fight or flight and get you into more meditative states and things like that, which is great. But if we're talking about actually influencing the cellular expression
Mhm.
of our body,
Yep.
I can work with a birth chart.
Mhm.
I can work with what is happening in the chart of the day that I'm doing the treatment on. There's a bunch of ways that I can create treatments based on the fact that I'm holding a planetary frequency, the vibration that planet makes as it goes around the sun,
Mhm.
brought up into a hearable range. This is what I'm working with.
Yep.
And it's an entirely different experience, and it's really hard to explain to people who haven't had that lived felt experience how this is so dramatically different.
Yeah. I mean, even Galileo too. Like we're talking about the telescope guy, if you will. He casts horoscopes professionally
Mhm,
based on his utilization of the combined two things that we're talking about, right? And
mhm,
being an astrologer back then was like being a data scientist meets spiritual advisor. People looked to the skies to understand everything, not just what to post on Instagram.
yeah,
You
well,
know?
And unfortunately for guys like Galileo, he lived during that time frame where there was this transition
Yeah.
between what was accepted, revered, and understood as science
Mhm.
and its application
Yeah.
at the time. By the end of his life, he had been excommunicated
Yeah.
because the church said, "Oh, we don't agree with what it is that you said," even though he could base it in science, but it didn't fit their agenda. So again, we're living in a version of that transition. Our mission here, if we choose to accept it, is to challenge the narrative that we are being given.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to differentiate between the church and God. I
Yeah.
don't think Adrian or I, neither one of us are saying like we challenge your relationship with God. I
Oh gosh,
actually
no.
I encourage a relationship with God. And for me, God is a consciousness. For other people, God is a gentleman in the sky. For other people, God is a she. Like, I respect universally whatever your relationship with God is.
Mhm.
And I encourage it because there is absolutely source, divine, what have you. And every single philosophy that I follow preaches and practices that, right?
Yes.
We are challenging the church because historically, that's when astrology became something to hide. As Christianity, as Adrian has alluded to multiple times now, as Christianity gained dominance in Europe in particular, it needed to centralize spiritual authority. And astrology, which is rooted in observing nature, it's rooted in empowering the individual, it's rooted in practice independently by women and mystics.
Mhm.
That was all a threat. And it has remained a threat through current day.
Yes. And that's the thing, like, we need spirituality in
Yes.
order to be whole and to be healthy. And it really
Whole become holy.
it doesn't matter what you call it. Whatever labels you use, however you choose to practice, that is not what we're challenging here.
Mm-mm.
What we're challenging is essentially a political agenda. And if
Which
your
the
opinion
church
is
carried.
yes, and monopolized for a
Yeah.
very, very long time.
Mhm.
I mean, just look at Catholicism. I'm a recovering Catholic, and I always, always questioned why I had to tell the priest that I screwed up because
Respectfully weird.
I'm like, hold on, but if he's always watching me, why do I have to tell you who's a third party? He should already know I screwed up,
And then
right?
I said, "Sorry."
Exactly, and that I genuinely feel bad about it because you can say anything, but God knows what's in my heart of hearts, right? So, like, I really question that kind of thing, but it was a way for the church to earn money. You had to pay a tithe
Mhm.
to the priest in order to be absolved. So, like, there is no question that being a spiritually led person is an absolute imperative for overall health and well-being. What we are
Especially
challenging
today when
is
spiritual warfare is at an all-time high.
absolutely.
Mhm.
But what is being questioned is the way in which it is being used.
Mhm.
Because all of these people, Pythagoras, Kepler, Flood, like all these people that we've mentioned through history, were actually creating quote unquote science to justify the connection with the divine. The way that they were practicing was actually a way to be closer to the divine. So there isn't anything inherently demonic about it. If anything, it is a path to the promised land, right? Then that conversation started being changed over time and through history because somebody had to control the narrative. We're seeing the exact same thing today. If you look at anybody of any religious background, religion is the part that gets in the way. Spirituality is
Mhm.
part of the human condition.
Mhm.
And that is where we get stuck
Mhm.
because it's like my religion is superior to yours. Well, no, we're all just looking to have a connection with higher consciousness,
Mhm.
higher power, whatever you call that. And it doesn't matter what you call that. We essentially, as part of our intrinsic nature of being human,
Mhm.
need to answer certain fundamental questions. Why am I here?
Mhm.
How did I get here?
And you can't do that without having a conversation with God consciousness that exists within yourself and within the greater universe. You can't do it. You are going to forever be incapable of answering those questions in any capacity
Mhm.
without this direct line of communication, which again, religion impedes.
Yes. And so, what we're talking about is your own mainline direct connection to source,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it, universe, spirit, source, God, does not matter what you use for a word. We as humans need that connection to thrive.
Absolutely.
And astrology just gave the science to it.
And unfortunately, it was like the demise of astrology came with it being classified with paganism, which again, I look at
Mhm.
paganism and I'm like, it's connection with the earth, it's rituals, right?
Mhm.
Like it's spirituality and it's just packaged in a different box with a different color bow. It was then classified as witchery, which is really fascinating to me because we are seeing a resurgence and a revival of all of the things that were once classified as witchery in today's day and age. Midwifery is finally, thank God, coming back onto the scene in a loud way. You know what I mean? Like we are finally seeing herbalists start to get the respect that they deserve. I have goosebumps. Unless you've studied herbs in a deep capacity, one, you don't understand the intimate relationship you develop with plants and this conversation that you have with a consciousness that can't speak, but you're speaking the same language, right? But also the deep spirituality that comes along with looking at something and understanding that there's a synergy in the way that it interacts with you, the human's ecosystem. Thank God we're finally listening to herbalists again. And I'm not talking about the integrative wellness supplement brands that take one fucking component out of a plant and call it a superpower supplement. Like, fuck you. Like, give me a break. Like,
Curcumin and turmeric, anybody? That one
what the
pisses
fuck?
me off.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's not herbalism. Like, that's not
No.
herbalism at all, right? We're finally seeing energy and sound get the respect that it deserves. Oh, and astrology, mark my words, okay? 2 years from now, you're gonna be like, oh, Adrian and Taylor were onto something. They sounded batshit crazy when I first listened to them, but what they were saying actually makes sense. Astrology is being revived, guys. And the horoscope astrologers are going to be phased out because people are finally going to start seeing the sophistication in the tool that is astrology.
Well, I mean, it's just like anything else, though, Taylor. Horoscope is an aspect, right?
Right.
Like plant is an aspect,
Right.
curcumin is an aspect. We have been so saturated in this culture of we are an accumulation. That's a good word, an accumulation of separate things. Just go to a Western practitioner. There's one for your ears, nose, and throat. There's one that deals with your uterus,
Nobody talks to each other.
but God forbid you bear a child out of that uterus, you got to go to a separate person who's going to teach you how to nurse them from your boobs. It's just you have different doctors that specialize in different parts of the body instead of looking at the alchemical whole.
Mhm.
I am a cycle alchemist, man, because we are an alchemical whole. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I think is so beautiful about astrology
Mhm.
is the fact that it recognizes that we are a unique blueprint. We are an alchemical experience walking around in the 3D.
Mhm.
It's starting to happen. And I have to laugh at what you said about in 2 years. Right now, Adrian and Taylor sound batshit crazy. That has been essentially my entire experience
Yeah.
in essence
Yep.
is I start talking about stuff and 2 years later, everybody thinks sound healing
But
is a great idea.
this is a perfect way to illuminate the Aquarian in you because Aquarius is forward thinking. It's
Oh,
broader spectrum. It's rooted in doing what's best for humanity, right?
yeah.
So you're going to see things coming down the pike, right? Like my Piscean eighth house helps with my ability to see, right? Just like I was talking about mold 2 years before it became mainstream, and the moment it became mainstream, I tapped out because 'cause I'm like, "Y'all are gonna dilute it, and you're gonna turn it into something that needs to be fixed, and you're never going to acknowledge the fact that mold is a frequency and we are frequency beings, and so long as we are vibrating at a frequency that meets that mycotoxin, we're gonna be an open, vacant hotel for it," right? And we're seeing that play out in real time. We're watching people kill, bind, and sweat. We're watching people jump right into protocols to address mycotoxins without looking at the full spectrum of everything. The same thing goes for nervous system. 2 years prior to that, I think it was 2017, I was talking about I've got the receipts. They're on my Instagram, right? Like I was talking about this publicly. I was talking about the weaving of nervous system imprint and its impact on full system health,
Mhm.
right? So like people who see what's coming down the pike are not going to make sense to you at first. It is always
Mhm.
going to be in reverse. And we'll be on to whatever's coming next. Trust me, in 2 years, Adrian, or I don't think astrology is going anywhere. Like I feel very, very confident in saying that. Same thing with herbalism, the revival that we're seeing in these midwifery, acutonics and sound therapy. Like I don't think they're going anywhere,
Mm-mm. No, I
right?
mean, sound healing and frequency are the medicine of the future.
Absolutely, right? I think Adrian and I are just gonna be in a place 2 years from now where we're amplifying what we're talking about now, and it's gonna get more nuanced, and it's gonna get
Mhm.
more individual because we're gonna understand more. And my question what I reflect, guys, can you tell I'm passionate about this? Because 'Cause I'm like, "Ding, ding, ding." Um, is like, are we gonna sit here and question quantum physics the way we've questioned Galileo and the telescope and the Islamics, antiquating it mathematically? Are we gonna repeat history in the same way where we go, "Ugh, quantum physics doesn't know what it's talking about?" Because that's the science of today proving it.
Mhm.
Or are we actually finally gonna take heed and be like, "Okay, 2025, quantum physics, the study of the universe, the study of all particles and all sizes is quantifying how this is showing up in our life in real time. I guess it's real."
Mm.
I really do question if we're gonna repeat history in the same way where it doesn't fit the science. This is literally the science that you guys worship.
Well, and I gotta stick my favorite question in there, is the science according to whom? Because that's really where we've had all of this, you know, back in this Renaissance period where this conversation first started to morph, the church was essentially screaming fake news about the science that was being shown.
Mhm.
We're seeing that play out in today's stage. So, how long are we going to actually believe the meta narrative we are being fed and not use our critical thinking skills to question what we are being fed? Because until we really start to push back and question, and I am seeing some of that now,
Mhm.
but attempts to do that get silenced just like they did back then.
My Instagram reach, I hate to even bring this into conversation right now, but the more I talk about this, the less people I get in front of.
Mhm. It's true. And it's because we have gone so far afield in the polarization around certain topics
Mhm.
that we have lost the ability to see both sides of the same coin. So, one thing that I say to people when I'm mediating discussions often is your lived experience are truth for you, but the actual truth lies somewhere in the middle. Usually people hate when I say that, but it's really true.
Mhm.
Right? I've always seen myself far more in the moderate camp because I can see both sides. There's my Libra rising. I can always see both sides. I
Justice
always
and
try to
harmony.
create balance.
Mhm.
Yeah. And my whole world is about creating balance in my household, in my practice, in my life, with my family, like you name it. And that's where the equation is stacked right now. And so, if you take anything away from this conversation, it is that we are seeing a repeat of history. And are we going to enable it or are we going to question it?
And this is your reminder too that these things don't go away. Like astrology didn't go away, or clearly herbalism didn't go away, but our elders did in the Western world. And I think that really makes my heart quite sad, right? I actually call me crazy. I actually think many of our elders have been reborn and are sitting in the millennial age right now. People that have passed, Yes, I'm talking reincarnation. Yes, I'm talking about previous lives. But I think the elders, or what would have been the elders that were executed because of what they know, guys, you can't kill energy. It's always going to come back, right? And it's going to come back at the perfect time in history to insert itself in the very perfect conversation. And a lot of us to disrupt the narrative, like we're here to disrupt the narrative, right? So none of these things go away. They just go underground. Like psychological astrology was backed by Carl Jung.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Y'all know that name, right? Carl Jung loved psychological astrology. And obviously that started to infuse it into pop culture.
Mhm.
So astrology is a framework for personal empowerment. It's a framework for spiritual growth. It's a framework for business alignment. We're getting ready to launch apprenticeship. That's what I'm calling it, because we're not just teaching you, we're teaching you tools that you can take with you, but like build a business around your natal chart and you're never going to be one bored or two burnt out, right? But it's also a personal, there we go, Taylor, framework for health, mental
Mhm.
health, emotional health, spiritual health. And the resurgence is part of a larger wave of people starting to remember that intuition is intelligence, that nature is our guide, and that there's power in rhythms that don't come from algorithms. And I think that is our glimmering hope with AI starting to make its way into the world with which we exist in. AI is programmed by people. I want everybody to remember that.
And it's only as garbage in, garbage out. It's only as smart as what we put into it.
Oh my God. I just for shunsies have tried to put in birth chart information into ChatGPT, and I'm like, chat, like read this chart. It is fucking always wrong. I'm like, and I know this is forever going to be an art for me because you can't get the fucking house and sign right. Like, oh my God, please don't go to chat for therapy, for medical advice, or for astrological breakdowns. So we're getting to that point where Adrian has another call, right? So we're going to start to wrap this up. But like, as we wrap this conversation up, I just want to remind everybody that's listening that astrology has always been about pattern recognition. I say this all the time, especially to people who are really hesitant to come into the conversation around astrology. I find the people that are most hesitant are heavily associated with religion. And I
Mhm.
say that so respectfully. We could do an entire conversation, maybe we will, on tying astrology into the Bible.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Happy to do it, right? And the Christian aspects of it. But
Yes.
astrology teaches us to see ourselves as part of something bigger, which is so beautiful when you think about it. Whether it was ancient kings or modern CEOs, people have always looked to cosmology, if you
Mhm.
will, the
Mhm.
cosmos, to prepare, to align, to remember. So, what if astrology wasn't mystical nonsense, but just a lost language that we're all beginning to remember?
I love that. It's really true. I mean, it's plugged into the cycles and seasons of the year, of life, of generations, of lifetimes. Like, we have lost touch with the fact that we are cyclical beings. And because of that, we are sicker than we had ever been before.
Yes. And have we noticed that prescriptions are not doing it, guys? The interventions available to us are only making us sicker or giving us a false sense of health, only to later reveal further dis-ease.
Yes, absolutely. That's where paganism was such a threat.
Mhm.
I mean, you even look at like the Chinese calendar and it starts on a new moon.
Mhm.
And their year shifts with the
Mhm.
different new moons in terms of planting seasons
Yep.
and the peak to be able to plug in to get more young so you're not sick through the
Mhm.
entire fall. There's every new moon brought different phase of the year. You see this in the Jewish calendar. There has been a reverence
Mhm.
historically and an understanding of our intimate connection with seasons and cycles in our bodies, in nature, in our lives, in our lifetimes,
And
etc.
in the sky.
Yes, honestly, it was always referred back to what was going on in the sky. Women cycle with the moon when they are not on hormonal birth control.
Mhm.
Hormonal birth control does not give you a period, folks, and I will fight people on that one
Oh,
because
it's
a
a
lot of
withdrawal
people,
bleed.
it's a withdrawal bleed, but a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm having my period," but it's not. You're not ovulating. Again, another episode. However, we typically when we do not have medication influencing the way our body is functioning, because birth control is the only medication designed to interrupt a healthy hormone cycle in a body.
If you're listening to this and you're on birth control,
No.
I am not shaming you. But the fact that we just accept that and go, oh, I'll deal with it later. Please go talk to the woman that can't get pregnant, who was on birth control for 12 years. Please go
Yeah.
talk to the woman who now has amenorrhea and
Yep.
because she was on hormonal birth control. Please go talk to the woman like insert. We have so screwed ourselves.
And honestly, it's because we've lost touch with this
Yeah.
connection, right? I am not shaming anybody who's been on birth control. I've been on it. I had a heart attack on it. I have the mug and the t-shirt, guys. I'm saying this because when we learn that we are cycling with the lunar cycle, you're going to have your bleed around one of the two big moons, either the new moon or the full moon, and you're going to ovulate at the other big moon, either the new moon or the full moon.
Yep.
And when you understand that, it helps you control your fertility for whatever means you want. Okay.
Hello,
It,
11 years baby free, no birth control.
I mean, in a post Roe v. Wade world, this is important information. So you are a cyclical being. And
Yep.
when we don't honor that cyclical connection, this is where we end up with cycle problems and physical symptoms that show up. That's one of the reasons. So if we start to really plug into the fact that there are cycles and seasons, and our body is a microcosm of nature, of course we're going to look at the sky, because these moons dictated when we planted. They dictated when crops were going to be at their most robust and things could be picked and harvested.
Yep.
Determined how close you were to getting to an equinox, because you needed more light, because at the time your ability to do things was dictated by candles and fire. We've lost our connection with the fact that we depended on our understanding of lunar and solar cycles and the movement of planets in order to live and thrive. And we're finally starting to get back to that. But we had to get really sick and really disconnected before the world started going, shit, this system is not sustainable.
Yep.
So astrology is really rooted in our body, our life, our lifetime, its expression, our business dealings, all of these things. And the more that you learn and you plug into that, it's like being able to critically think. The more you know, nobody can take knowledge away from you.
Nope. Or your books.
Right.
I guarantee you'll find gems there. Old astrological texts are priceless. They're invaluable, especially if you can find one handwritten.
Yeah.
They are my favorite. It is like taking a piece or a page out of history and bringing it into the present. But that is the history in a nutshell. In an hour-long nutshell of the base of astrology. And there are many different roads that we can take and directions that we can go. And I think Adrian and I intend on doing so. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to really root into the rich history of astrology and show you that it's not some made up, validated or unvalidated thing of past time. So I hope you guys found this episode interesting, enlightening, and until next time, guys, stay curious.